Are we ready? Alrighty, good evening and welcome to Hartland Township and the Planning Commission meeting of March 26th. We'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Keith, would you take roll, please?
Certainly. Mike Mitchell? Here. Tom Murphy? Here. Sue Grissom is absent. Joe Claney? Here. Larry Fox?
Here.
And Jeff Newsom appears to be absent. That's it, right? And myself.
And yourself.
And myself.
Alrighty, thanks. Next up, approval of our meeting agenda.
So moved.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Claney, second from Commissioner Murphy. Are there any changes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, item 5A, approval of the Planning Commission meetings minutes from January 29th, 2015.
If I may, I'm sorry, maybe I should just, these are the ones that we saw once before, and you asked that they come back with a little more detail, so this is our attempt at a little more detail.
Okay.
So moved.
Support.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Mitchell, second from Commissioner Claney. Any changes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, approval of our February 26th meeting minutes.
Move to approve the meeting minutes from February 26, 2015.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Voigt, second from Commissioner Murphy. Are there any changes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Call to the public. Anyone wish to say anything this evening?
If you come to the meeting, you got to talk.
All righty. No call to the public, no public hearing. We'll move right on to item 8A. This is the 2015 Comprehensive Plan Update, updated future land use map. And I think it would be wise if we turn this over to our Planning Director, David Campbell.
Thank you. Good evening. The map that you have in your Planning Commission packet this evening in the bottom left-hand corner should have a date on it that says March 19th, I believe. And we've since tweaked the map a little bit and put the more updated version in front of you, and that's the version that's on the screen right now. So the date on the more up-to-date one is March 23rd. So I just want to be sure that we're all looking at the same map as we have these discussions. The Planning Commission is well aware that we've been working over the better part of the last year on updating the township's future land use plan, and particularly the future land use map. We've had a whole lot of discussions over the course of a lot of meetings. And what's before you now is a draft updated map, what could potentially turn into the 2015 Hartland Township future land use map. And these updates incorporate a lot of the changes that the Planning Commission had a lot of discussion on and that they hope to see, along with some, what I would call some housekeeping changes, things that were outdated on the 2011 map or things that had changed since the 2011 map that we've had an opportunity to clean up now on this proposed 2015 map. You may notice that some of the colors have been changed. We're certainly open to suggestions on that. We recognize that on the 2011 map, there's a lot of shades of yellow that tend to blend together if you look at it too long, so we've tried to add some cross-hatching or some dotted elements to try to distinguish some of those land use categories a little bit better. We've adjusted the road layer. We've done some other things to essentially make the map a little bit easier to use and easier to navigate. But we've also, based on a lot of discussions with the Planning Commission, the Planning Department has put together a map that has some significant changes, and I'd like to talk about all of the changes, insignificant or less significant, because the hope of the Planning Department is that the Planning Commission is going to host a public input session on April 16th, which would be our next Planning Commission meeting. Now, that is not the public hearing that is mandated by the state of Michigan anytime you're doing an amendment to your comprehensive plan. This is a public workshop where we want to reach out and present this map to the public in general, but particularly those in property owners whose properties are being potentially redesignated, to get their input so that when the Planning Commission is ready in the next month or so to forward this onto the Township Board with a recommendation for adoption, we've had an opportunity to hear that public input. in a less formal setting, I would say, than what the public hearing will be, which that public hearing we're targeting for, if anybody knows the answer to that. The schedule, I think, has us having the public hearing in June.
July.
July, is it? Yeah. And that's not because we're dragging our feet. It's because there's noticing requirements. There's a certain number of days that everybody has to have an opportunity to publicly review the plan after the board has made a recommendation on it. So, I would like to just kind of go through some of the changes to the future land use map that is in front of you, and most of these are ones that the Planning Commission has had plenty of discussion on. And I'll start with some of the more significant changes. So, north side of Dunham Road, just east of the high school campus, or the Hartland Schools campus in general, there's 3 80-acre parcels on the north side of Dunham, just east of Clark Road, that previously had been designated on the 2011 map, which I can also pull up on the screen and should be in your packets. Those were previously designated low suburban density residential, and based on some discussion with the Planning Commission, most recently at our March 12th meeting, the consensus was to up the density, the planned density, for those 3 parcels totaling 240 acres, to go from the low suburban residential density to the medium urban density residential. So that is what this map is now showing, and the hope of the planning department is that we continue to have a consensus on that, or if we don't, that we have that discussion tonight, so that the map that we're presenting at a public workshop in a few weeks is the desire of the Planning Commission moving forward. I could pause there and see if there's any further discussion on that. You had a question?
Yeah, I had a question. So, Dave, my question was, if you do the math on how many acres there are on that particular piece, and just north of Dunham, there's 240 acres. And if you do the math and go to the low end of medium urban density residential, that would be 1 home for 1/2 to 1/3 of an acre.
Yes.
So that piece of property, at 240 acres, could really, minus whatever wetlands there are there, whatever setbacks and such, if you just take the acreage, could fit 720 homes on the high side and 480 on the low.
So I could double-check your math, but you're an engineer, are you not, Tom? So trust your math. Typically, a good jumping-off point when you're trying to figure things like that is to lop off 25% for roads, infrastructure, setbacks, everything else. And then whatever 75% of that 240 acres is, then you could divide that by as many as 3 units per acre. And if that comes out to the number you just cited, then that would be the right number.
No, I would be 25% fat on that.
Okay.
Or heavy on that, excuse me.
Okay.
So, and maybe that's the plan, right? Whenever the idea was to change it as such. And, how many will end up on the property, I'm really not sure. I just wanted to point that out.
That would be, by doing the math we just went through, taking the 75% and dividing it by 3, that would be the high end of that proposed density. The lower end would be the 2 units per acre.
Which is medium suburban.
Well, it's somewhere. Yeah, it could be covered under medium suburban. That's the high end for medium suburban and kind of the low end for medium urban.
Yep, there's an overlap there.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, I think on that piece, we've been told by actually a board member that lives near there that a lot of that property isn't developable.
That's a true. That was said by one of the board members, and I would tend to agree, particularly on this 80 acres on the west end. That is almost all predominantly wetlands, and so I would question the developability of that. So in theory, if a major residential developer bought all 240 acres, they would most likely use that 80 acres as their open space, natural features preservation area.
Yeah, and then I think you need to take a look at what's left in your 25%, because I think the 25% is pretty conservative on that particular parcel, or parcels, based upon what we know.
Yep.
So I don't think that it's even close to 2.
So if it's 25%, the numbers would go down. They'd go to, on the high side, 540 homes or 360 homes on the lower side.
That would be what would be permitted from so the next step would be if a developer came in and wanted to rezone that property, because keep in mind, we're changing the land use designation, not the zoning. The next step would be for a developer to get the property rezoned, and they would be seeking the maximum density they could get. Or that would be the highest they could get. Now, they could potentially come in with something of a lower density. It's just whatever the market drives. But what we're hearing, or not just what we're hearing, what our market study confirms is that the size and the density and the type of units that the market is looking for in Hartland Township right now is consistent with that 3 units per acre gross density.
And that's similar to what Mill Point has, is that correct?
Mill Point may even be more. I wouldn't. Mill Point may be 3 to 4 units per acre.
Yeah, there's 206 homes on how many acres?
That's an 80-acre tract.
80-acre tract. So
206?
206.
80?
And not even the full 80 because
That's not quite
the
2.5.
there's a lot of wetland in there too.
Yeah, and I want to make sure we're all understanding this. I believed when we were discussing this particular parcel that we were going to wipe out a significant piece due to natural features. Then when you take out the roads and all the other items, you don't really come up with anywhere near 248 developable acres out of that parcel. And when you go through all the math and the cluster housing and all that, yeah, they're going to be small lots, which are what the people want, but I think it's a parcel that's going to provide a lot of open space. Some of it usable, some of it not. Just a thought.
Is that 40 acres in the corner there next to it, to the east?
Tom, what was the concern? The infrastructure in the area,
it's half of an 80,
is because of the surrounding land uses, or what?
Just maybe to point it out, because they were higher numbers than I maybe thought they would be, because if the study came back and said we really could use 500 homes,
We're talking about
maybe the 500 homes won't all be built right now, right? This is future, right?
Medium
So,
urban to the low suburban to the...
well, then I looked at Mill Point, and I thought, so that area could all look like Mill Point, because if you look at the way it's, to me, the way it looks like it's on the land use map, Mill Point is also medium urban density.
Mill Point is medium urban density, as is Cobblestone, as is just right down the street here, Heritage Meadows. So those are all the types of developments that are conceivable in the medium urban land use designation.
Would a manufactured home go in there?
Manufactured home has to stick to the high density residential. That's the specific land use designation for that.
Heritage Meadows.
Yeah, right. Not Hartland Meadows.
I was thinking Hartland Meadows.
Mill Point isn't exactly 80 acres. There's the commercial up here in the corner. The other thing with Mill Point is always a tough comparison, because Mill Point was a consent judgment from the township. Mill Point was originally platted as a manufactured home community, and I don't know all the history of it, but the manufactured home lots stayed, but had stick-built single-family homes built on them. So Mill Point, for those reasons and all the history that went with it, is not always the best comparison of what could be developed.
Well, and probably the subdivision to the south might be closer to it. And what is that name?
That's Cobblestone.
Right. Cobblestone. Yeah. Or this Heritage Meadows right here. I guess that's what I was envisioning probably would happen, with a lot of land cut out for natural features. I think people like the lawns that they can walk their mower behind, walk behind their mower versus ride a tractor.
But Heritage Meadows isn't Heritage Meadows? No.
Heritage Meadows is exactly the zoning that
I'm looking at it now. I was
or
thinking it
the
was
future
further.
land use designation that we're proposing for the Dunham property.
And, that kind of home, or those kind of homes, have to be kind of the target we're going for. This is a family area, right? That's what we want. So I guess, Keith, the numbers just seem to be kind of high to me when I ran them, but I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. I guess I just wanted to bring it up as a topic.
Yeah, I'd say good luck getting it in there, what we know of the land itself. But the gross, just the simple calculation would probably...
Yeah, it is a little scary when you just look at it that way. Yeah.
This isn't the most scientific way to evaluate wetlands, but it just, your eyeballs can tell you, it's pretty wet in through there. And I think I brought this up at the last meeting. Trustee Germain's history lesson was that Clark Road, the reason it doesn't continue past Dunham Road was that back when such roads were being built, it was not cost-effective to try to put a road through that wetland area.
Yeah, I think he commented that some of this area here, this was wet. Does that sound right?
Yep,
Because right now, for sure, is this where the shared driveway went in?
yep.
Yes, is this?
Or to the left of
Just
that,
to the
yep.
left, to the
Just to the left of that,
Right
yep.
there?
Oh, there, yep.
Is this Clark?
That's Clark.
Thank you. So, yeah, it went in right there.
That's correct.
That lot.
Yep. And remember,
Pretty low right there, even.
he even had to traverse the wetlands he was trying to navigate.
I mean, that's the Orr Creek running right through the middle of it,
It is.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the corner anyway.
Yeah, so you know this area up at the top end is going to be probably equal.
Drainage.
I think there's a county storm drain pretty close to there, too.
This is the 2015 map where I do not have the rivers turned on, and I should. But yeah, there's the Orr Creek cutting across here, and then a tributary up through there.
Yeah, I think there was a time in one of our meetings we talked about making this even a different density, didn't we?
Well, I'd still contend a lot of it won't even be buildable because it's not going to be very accessible. It's going to have to gain access off the other two parcels because I think the water's cutting it off from Clark, or from Dunham.
Yeah, there's a trail that goes in somewhere in here that I've seen. Maybe it's even here, I'm not sure.
There's a two-track path cut back in there where they're doing mining, sand mining, but
So is that what they're doing?
they did it one time, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, just a point. I think you're exactly right. I don't know, maybe you won't even end up with half of that being developable.
I mean, obviously, it's difficult to say what will ultimately get developed there, and it may be quite a few years before.
Well, you know, responsibility to it or not, you've got to put enough density to it if you expect what short infrastructure extensions need to be made between water, sewer, and roads. And if you're going to ask for a 2-acre parcel or something, you might as well just make it nothing. Yes. If your thought is to put the density where the services are or are in close proximity to make the expansion feasible, that's why I supported this piece, because you got Clark Road paved. You'll probably, to develop that, you'll probably see Dunham paved across the frontage of the property. We're not going to allow that type of development to access a gravel road. And you're going to need enough mass to it to afford that type of development. And they're saying we need that type of development, so it all fit together for me.
Would you extend medium suburban to the 40 acres to the east?
Oh, the yellow now, what is it, low?
Yeah.
You probably could.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Just to buffer it, just to
That's
kind of
what-
work your way into it.
Right. You might even do which looks like 20 acres.
Yeah.
To the north.
South end of that?
Yeah.
On the north side of the road?
this piece?
No, that piece, I think we already talked about that piece.
This,
Talking about the piece.
that piece, that one.
Yeah, that'd be a 40, right?
Yeah,
40
that's the
and
one you're
20.
talking about.
Yeah. We talked about that last piece, why we wouldn't do that. Well, I think we thought there's some already existing housing there.
Tell me where
Were
we're...
we talking about this?
No.
Hey, only one laser at a time. No.
We're talking about, we talked about this last time because there's already,
Oh, that piece. Yeah, that's,
people have already developed there.
yeah.
It's already developed.
Yes.
It almost doesn't even make sense, well, not that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
but-
that piece, I don't even know if there's a vacant parcel on it or not. It's been a long time since I've driven up that.
But I was talking about the one on to the east side,
Yes,
Here.
which would be good.
this one, yes.
It'd be a good buffer. I think that's the Maine's piece, isn't it?
Is it?
I think it might be, yeah.
Still Bullock.
Oh, it's still Bullock.
That's a good point, though.
Yeah, then you got, well, not only that, just to the south of it, on the other side, you have...
You already
same
have
as you already have it.
Right.
And then I would probably look at the 40 acre, or the 80 acres to the east of that, and make that low suburban density residential, which fits with what's out there. But I bet you that would get pushed into, if somebody's going to develop that Bullock piece, they'll want to develop it probably in the same medium suburban density.
No, that's a good point, though, that you're making. Just step into it, and you're not doing anything unusual because you already have it to the south.
Right.
And then just take what's on that piece and push it east.
So, these are all good suggestions, and first, one of the things I want to know is whether or not there's a consensus. And I know when we were talking about these types of issues a couple weeks ago, we were talking about transition areas. So what you have right now is, you could argue, is a transition from the medium urban to the low suburban to the estate residential, is what I'm hearing, to kind of push that transition off a little bit further east, which go medium suburban here to low suburban to estate residential.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the estate residential's already established there. Maybe not on that one big piece, too. It's kind of in the middle. Looks like that might be a horse farm.
Just take that yellow, move it over here, take this yellow with red dots, and move it up into this piece.
Would you go all the way up and get that other 20 acres?
You could.
I would do it.
I think it would make it more appealing, be a larger piece to work with.
I would support that.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
I think it's a great idea.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm clear, because this, like I said, this would be a map that we'd be showing to the public in 3 weeks. 3 weeks? 3 weeks. Medium suburban here, so the yellow with the red polka dots,
All the way up. This
including this 20, this 40.
all of this? You take it all the way up?
These lots too? I mean, these,
I think those are already developed.
Okay. They're already split, so, okay.
so 60 acres of medium suburban, 80 acres of low suburban,
Yep.
and then keep this estate residential.
Keep which estate residential? I looked away.
What's the Shady Creek?
Shade Creek.
Everything in through here.
Yeah.
What about that piece that looks like 40 acres to the north kitty corner to that estate residential?
This?
Yeah. What is that now? What's there now? Is that vacant?
That would be this. That looks vacant to me, or at least it was in 2010.
We're kind of stretching out there now, aren't we?
No, there's no address assigned to it, so that would indicate it's still vacant.
I'm just thinking outside the box. The
Yeah, you
40
are.
box.
What's the access to that?
I don't know.
That belongs to somebody because there's no road.
Absolutely.
There's nothing there to get to it.
I bet
You just drive up the pipeline easement.
Two track.
That's it.
You know, that might be another Giggler piece.
It might be connected
Could
to
it
this
be?
piece.
Yeah, I think Giggler has, somewhere up there, Giggler has some property, and he's got a baseball diamond on it. But I don't know if that's it or not.
Well, I think that might be stretching it only because there's no access to it. It's coming through another parcel unless you're going to put
Yeah.
that kind of density, I'd leave it alone. If it had a road frontage, it might be different. Okay, did you get all that, Dave?
I did. Any other thoughts on that neck of the
Brought
woods?
that one up, huh?
We had it east, didn't
Tom, you could have...
we? Yeah.
We went the wrong direction for Tom.
I was thinking the other way.
Yeah. Go back to the map again?
That zoomed in look?
Yeah.
So, if you'll zoom out just a touch, please.
But you're all right.
I don't hit myself in the eye. So if we compare the 2004 map to this map, the latest map, this right here somehow added on this quasi-public.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's because what is there is these ball diamonds. Oh, wait.
It's soccer, baseball, and football practice, right?
Oh, is that what? Oh, that's the property we. Okay, all right. That's just a correction then, huh?
That's, unless that wasn't there in 2011.
It wasn't in 11.
Okay.
Well, yeah, we're looking at, right, if we compare the 11 map.
Yeah.
I just don't know if those fields were there in 2011. That was before my time. I'm guessing they were.
Yeah, you know what? They were. Yeah.
So then I would consider that more of a correction.
Okay. All right.
It's fair to assume that that's going to remain public use for the foreseeable future.
Thank you. Just something we saw.
Church, that's one of the All Saints or Our Savior. I always mix those two up.
Okay.
Shall we move around the map a little bit, or are we still looking at this?
Comfortable with that?
That area, yeah.
Okay. Let's look at the village area. So we've had this discussion before, but more in the context of zoning. Then we kind of took a step back and said, let's not put the cart before the horse. If we're going to do a rezoning in the village, let's have it be consistent with our future land use map. So what we're showing here is village commercial on both the east and the west side of Avon Road, from Krause Road on the south end to, this is Henry Street. This is the Hartland Cemetery. So you've got the library over here. That's why this is all public, quasi-public. You've got the 51 building and Victory Baptist Church. So this is the east side of Avon, where Village Cafe and some of those uses are. This is the west side with... we had a whole discussion months ago about there was an error in the zoning map that occurred sometime in the 90s, and some properties on the west side of the road got inadvertently rezoned from the settlement residential designation to the, no, scratch that. They got inadvertently redesignated from settlement commercial to settlement residential, and we decided that was an error. So we want to correct that, but we think the better way to do it is to first make it a correction on the future land use map, so that when we do a rezoning shortly thereafter, we can say with a straight face we're doing something that's consistent with the future land use map.
Makes sense to me.
Yes. And it doesn't, from either a zoning or a land use standpoint, preclude residential. The settlement commercial zoning district allows both single-family and very limited commercial uses. Another correction right in that same area, and I think Trustee Claney brought this one up. This is the, I think, 6-acre property just adjacent to Spranger Field that previously had been shown, I think, as village commercial, and the township purchased it, and it's now part of the Spranger Field Park, and so we're calling that public, quasi-public. Again, more of a correction. Moving up to the south side of Clyde Road right on the western border of the township. This is an 80-acre tract that Hartland Schools owns that they're holding for potential expansion off in the future, or potentially some sports fields. I'm not sure that they have any definite plans for it, but we call that public, quasi-public, knowing that it's owned by the school district. So one of the more significant changes that got a lot of discussion with this planning commission was the southwest corner of Bergen and Old 23. This is, I think, 160 acres, plus or minus.
Yep.
This had been designated planned industrial R&D, which is the purple color surrounding it. And after a good bit of discussion with the planning commission, it was recommended, there was something of a consensus, that too go to the medium urban density. And I know the property owner has had some conversations with me very early on in this whole process, and he was curious what might be happening with his property, and he'll certainly be someone that we make a point to invite to this public workshop in a couple weeks. But I guess if I wanted to reach one more consensus that this is the approach we want to take on this property as we present it to the public and then to our township board.
Well, I think it could be higher, but not apartments. And I think that was the question I was trying to ask you before. If you wanted to allow a condominium development, I mean, we have all the infrastructure. We have the roads, the water isn't far, the sewer's right there. They're making roads to the Bergen Road, old US 23 interchange with the repaving. They're adding a right turn lane. All those things that are going on there. Is it desirable and a benefit to allow something more of a condominium-type development versus a single, up to a density of that? Because we still haven't done much with that around here. And condominiums are huge in many communities.
Sure.
And really, Hartland doesn't have any condominiums
Really
other
don't
than...
Are you thinking high-density residential there?
Well, I guess my question to Dave is, Dave, what do you need, what zoning do you ultimately need, or what is the designation on the future land use map to allow us, like a duplex or quad-type condominium project that would be very desirable to young professionals or empty nesters?
So you'd be looking at the multifamily designation would be the closest thing that we would have to allowing something like that. Which, if good, bad, or indifferent, that would also envision apartment living as well. We don't necessarily have a land use designation for owner-occupied attached units, but not rental apartment units.
So medium urban density residential is the largest category, most dense category we have, other than sliding into something that would allow us a apartment project.
That's correct.
Okay.
Now, the next question, when that day comes, would be the zoning of it.
Right.
But as far as, a 20-year vision of land use, the land use designation that would look at a higher density attached owner-occupied development would be the multifamily designation.
Well, that isn't what I was thinking. That goes a little too far.
You're not interested in any apartment?
Well, I think there's opportunities for apartments in other places, like the special planning area, Would apartments work? Yeah, I suppose. I mean, you need them. It's another element. Aren't they a component of the special planning area?
They are. The special planning area envisions a whole host of things. That was the whole idea.
That's true.
The developer who's controlling it now has already made it known that they are looking to partner with a apartment developer and look at both some senior-oriented apartments, but also some market apartments.
My concern with the multiple family for there in apartments would be that's like 8 units per acre, and I don't know what a condominium project like Woodcliff is, but it can't be anywhere near 8. So there's nothing in between.
There's not, and so Woodcliff and Fawn Ridge, thank you, does have that multifamily land use designation, and that's why, because that's the land use designation that
It took to get it,
yes.
or that it is.
Couldn't you make that another special planning area too?
Is that an option?
It's a late option. So the special planning area and the description that goes along with it is specific to M59 and Fenton Road.
I think we keep it as it is, and if a particular project comes along that would require a zoning change to increase the
Necessity?
I mean, that
Can we go against the future land use map?
And I was just thinking, I don't know that you would be going against it. I think that if and when that day comes, we could certainly say that, the future land use map, for one thing, is a vision, and we could say that, at the time, 2015, the designations that were available to the Planning Commission, this was the highest residential density that was still envisioned as something other than multifamily. And so if you approved a development And certainly a development on that scale would likely be something of a plan, would come through as a PD anyway. You could certainly say that, we're going for a density higher than 3 units per acre, but it's not quite the 8 units per acre, and the reason why is because back in 2015, when we were discussing this, we could pull up the March 26th Planning Commission minutes and see why we settled on the medium urban.
Well, I would be comfortable with that, because I think the 8 scares me, but the 3 isn't enough. But for the right development, maybe 4 is perfect. We just don't have it. So I'd be comfortable leaving it as proposed.
Good approach.
Yeah.
It's the conservative side of it. It'll also allows you a negotiating tool when you get into what is it that you're going to put here.
Yes, it does.
And then that's what I was going to say. I think that's a good point. You have a little bit of control that way.
Yep.
So let's leave it as is.
I would support it as drawn or as proposed.
Is that a consensus?
We have a consensus.
All right. Another area where this was more housekeeping than anything, if we were to go back and forth between the 2011 map and the proposed 2015 map, you will... Did I not fix...
It goes to quasi-public.
No, I'm looking at... Okay.
Yeah, you fixed it.
I was scared for a moment.
Yeah, no, it's fixed.
Right here, Walmart. So Walmart, in 2011, it was shown as kind of a mix of general commercial toward M59 with some multifamily behind it. This is, I think we can all agree that that's going to be Walmart for a long time, or some other, large-scale retail. Behind it was also some multifamily, but as part of the Walmart development agreement, or the Hartland Marketplace development agreement, this land was all deeded to the Livingston Land Conservancy. So this is the whole intent of the Livingston Land Conservancy, is that this land will now and forever be natural, and that's why we went with public, quasi-public in through here. So that is a change or a correction to reflect the realities of things that have happened since the 2011 map was adopted. Any questions there?
Is that orange right above it? Because that used to be the, why is there orange right above?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a change there from the 11.
Is there a change from the 11?
I mean, from the 15 that you gave us until today.
Right, you see the red?
Yeah,
And there's orange.
Is that
So
enough?
here's 2011.
Right.
Here is the most up-to-date 2015. So in that instance, I am looking to create some consistency there with the multifamily here and the medium urban next door. Now, if we look at this is one of the things, the tweaks, as I would call it, between the map that I created dated March 19th and the map that I created dated March 23rd, is I didn't yet split this property in two and call this half multifamily and this half medium urban, nor did I switch this to the public, quasi-public.
I mean, what's there? It looks like there's pretty wet.
It is very wet.
So why?
Why would we even have multifamily on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason I did it the way I did it was because we didn't have any discussion on changing that, and so in that, in lieu of any discussion and any consensus to change it, I went with being consistent with what was already shown on the 2011 map.
What if we just made it what most of the residential around there is, and made it that medium urban instead of multifamily?
It makes sense to me.
Then it's consistent with the residential around it versus plopping a high-density piece sitting right there.
If it gives you any perspective, it's 28 acres. It is owned, private ownership by a developer,
And it's
LLC.
underwater.
It is. So I think the suggestion on the table was to just call the whole thing medium urban.
I would call it medium urban, which is what the eastern half of that, all that is, and it just continues to wrap around, personally.
I agree with that.
Agree.
I don't hear any arguing. These three properties on the north side of M59, this is AutoZone, this is Hartland Point Plaza with Little Caesars and Sherwin-Williams. This is the KFC site. If we go to the 2011 map, I don't know if this was an error or if this was a change along the way, but those three same parcels are shown as multifamily. So this I would consider a correction to go from the multifamily in 2011 to the commercial in 2015.
Okay.
Sounds right.
And
There's another spot I noticed down off Maxfield Lake, off Maxfield Road, south and east of it. That would be between what we received today and what in the 2015.
yes, this is the Hartland Glen Golf Course, and there was a portion of it that was still showing down here, this where I'm moving my mouse, that was still shown as a state residential, and for a lot of reasons it made sense to call the entire parcel medium urban. No, excuse me, medium suburban.
Where's the new Maxfield?
Woods Edge?
Yeah.
Right there.
Right.
Right there. So why wouldn't we change that? Because isn't it changing now to more medium? There's 27,
Yeah, what are they proposing?
21 homes.
It's 21 homes on 21 acres.
There's also it's 1 acre. So it's still low suburban.
That is, bear with me for a second.
Residential?
Is that a mistake?
That is shown as a state, this is a good point. This is shown as a state residential on the 2011 map.
And current
And it's still shown as a state residential on the 2015 map. Given, now that's a project that is pending, and this is a good discussion. Is it a given that that's the direction that's going to go? Keeping in mind, and maybe this is why it is a given, there's 20 sewer taps on that property. Whoever develops that property is going to want at least 20 units.
Right.
So what would it be?
So you'd be looking at either the low suburban or the medium suburban, because both of them cover the 1 unit per 1 acre range.
Well, I would go with the low suburban because that's what you have right
Across the street.
right adjacent to it.
Well, behind is the medium. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I'd be inclined. I'd
That's
go
only
low.
medium because that's,
Forest Brook. or-
yeah.
Yeah. I think I would make it low suburban and what's directly across the street from it.
I would agree with that.
Just for clarification, what's across the street is the medium urban.
Medium, I see.
No, there isn't.
Yeah.
That's the orange with the
Well, I'm
red.
talking the left. I'm talking towards Long Lake.
Towards Long Lake.
And it also raises the density, but it doesn't enhance it beyond what we've had proposals for, and it keeps it in alignment with the 20 sewer taps.
That's one way to put it.
And if you raise it, if you go to the denser, then that's more than the 20 sewer taps.
Which
Or
brings
has potential to
What are you suggesting moving it to?
be yellow, low suburban
Low suburban-
density.
low suburban
Because
density.
that matches the sewer taps and the adjoining property to the direct west.
Okay.
Yeah, and the current project.
And the current project, and to be honest with you, the project before that.
Then you go to the west of Long Lake, and I noticed that you have it marked as, it looks like a state residential.
Right here?
Yeah, all those homes, not there, all the homes on the lake.
This is low suburban.
That's low suburban?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
The state residential is even more pale.
okay, maybe that's...
I recognize that there's only so many shades of yellow.
Yeah, that's, okay.
Are you looking at the 15 map or the 11 map?
What's on the screen is a 15 map.
15 man.
It jumps out a little easier.
I've had to shine my light a couple times on this, too. Oh, yeah.
I'll say it again, I'm open to suggestions on colors.
Well, what do you get? Red, yellow, blue, and green, and that's about it, isn't it?
Well, just, it's kind of good practice that when you're doing these kind of maps, your yellow is your residential, your red is your commercial, your purple is your industrial. That's the kind of the standard for land use maps. But when you've got 6, 7, 8 different residential designations, you run out of different shades of yellow. So jokes aside, if there's a thought that maybe the low suburban could benefit from some sort of a cross-hatching or some sort of pattern, something,
No, I like
I'm all
what you
ears.
did here.
I think it's fine.
I think it's fine. I like the little dots. the way you did that?
I think it works. You would just confuse a chameleon if he walked across the...
Sure.
So going back, you went further, a little bit further west, and what is that?
So that's along the expressway, and that's very wet as well. If that's what you're asking, is what's there now.
Well, what's there now is trees and a lot of water. We've had a couple people in informals over the 10 years I've been doing this, and it's tough to get a home site or two in there. That's all I've ever seen on all
So
of it.
keep it the way it is.
It's just not developable.
It's a state resident
water.
It's a state residential currently, or state residential on the 2011 map, and we never had any conversations about changing it. I'm open to having that conversation tonight, but
It just seems like an island among all the...
It is. It is. I mean, you could change its density so that somebody maybe could do something with it. I just know we've talked to several people, and it's always underwater.
And I don't want to play civil engineer necessarily, but I know enough to know that there is a certain, that these properties do mitigate a lot of the drainage issues moving west to east under the highway and over into Long Lake. If this were to turn into some sort of a high-density... Pavement? Yeah, a lot of pavement and impervious surface, that could create a lot of issues.
Yeah, I keep it the same.
It's just called preservation.
Other than it's privately owned, and somebody might not like that.
Way like tax break.
Yeah. Well, this doesn't change anything, really, because it's not the zoning. It's just what you could potentially do to it. I guess they could like it not to potentially go that way.
Right here is a change that I didn't just want to assume I should make. So this is the Trillium Office Center. I know there's some doctor's offices in there. Behind there is 3 large lot homes, and they're 2 of the 3 lots are built on. And currently on the 2011 map, both the office building that I'm moving my mouse around right now and the 3 residential lots behind it are shown as office. And I question whether there was any plausible opportunity to really extend the office use back in there, given, that Bullard Road goes gravel here pretty quick and a number of other factors. So I propose to move that to the low suburban density, but I didn't want to just make that change without bringing it to your attention.
There's nothing on the 2 orange pieces that are adjoining that, is there?
No. In fact, I get questions on that one every so often.
To the east, meaning?
Yes. Yeah. So there's the flag lot, and then the 2 smaller strips in front of
And
it.
that's the Armstrong property, isn't it?
Well, this is our township park, which was bought from the Armstrong family, correct?
Yeah.
And then this is the farmhouse that's still there,
Right.
and then this is vacant.
Why are we making that multifamily residential?
It's what it was on the 2011 map, and we didn't ever talk about changing it. It's right there. So you're looking at the 2011 map right now.
That's why I was going there. That's why I asked.
Yeah.
Is there anything on there?
No. At one point in time, he was looking to develop that as commercial, and we were going to have a joint driveway coming off that parcel into the park rather than have a separate park entrance to the park off M59. So it would be sort of a, commercial development taking you into the park, and we were putting a lot of things, we were trying to get our ducks in line, and we actually at one point we actually had a 3-party agreement with the soccer association, the adjacent property owner, in the township to just do a shared drive or shared road that came across. And then, of course, things didn't work out. So I'm wondering, my understanding is that's always been kind of looked at as possible commercial, at least in the front, or office. Excuse me.
Well, I was just going to make it all blue.
The blue as in office?
Take the orange and the yellow. Map. It's not the zoning.
Yeah, just make it all blue.
Make it all blue.
Even the parcel to
The
the,
horizontal orange, the vertical orange, and that thing.
And the
right
yellow.
there, and the yellow, just make it all blue. Get a big enough piece, maybe somebody will put an office complex or something worth developing.
There is sewer there.
We don't have a lot of blue.
we don't. I was gonna mention that. I was sitting here, we have a little bit onto the west part of the township.
Yeah.
And then the concentration is along, and what we've seen there is, that was the area where builders had their spec examples, and they would build them up, and then that's where people would go to look at their spec, and then they converted them into offices. And I really don't like that, but...
No. But if you had a big enough piece of office zoning, you might get a complex and/or somebody who wants to build an office of size, because there's enough land there to do it.
I would be in favor of that, Larry.
It's all attached, and the orange kind of looks funny there anyways, and I'd take that yellow piece with it.
So the suggestion is take 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of property and take all of them to the office designation.
And 5, 6, 7, and 8 moving west. Take it all. The yellow and the orange.
Both orange and
take
both
these.
yellows?
Take it all.
That whole corner is...
Just take it all.
I got lost.
All of this.
No, to the right.
Take all of this.
Okay, these are homes.
Yep. But
Yeah,
this is
that's all
the
right.
future land
It's
use.
future
map.
land use.
They could be bought.
They're nice new homes. Okay, so this whole cluster that I'm drawing
Yep.
a circle on,
Yep.
all goes blue.
Well, that's what we're talking about.
Okay. I didn't write it down yet.
I'm talking.
I'm looking.
Well, if those,
Those three right there, though, you're saying are pretty nice homes.
Yeah, they are.
I don't know
So I
if that
doubt-
should, but that, I don't know if that should be our,
Oh, that's-
our reasoning.
if you build commercial around it, they're not going to want to be there anymore anyway.
Well, it's not commercial, it's the office.
Well, no, but it could, yeah, okay.
But I mean,
But do you want apartments around them?
well, that's what I'm,
Yeah, right now, they could build...
They build apartments.
yeah.
Right here.
Would you rather have an office building that's occupied from 8 in the morning to 6 at night than a 8 units per acre apartment complex?
Well, that's where they're living today with
Well,
all,
they're living vacant land is what they're living.
well,
Nothing on it.
Offices in front of them, though.
there's offices in
Yeah,
front.
yes.
So it wouldn't be too much of a change is the thought. And if you compared it, if you laid that out on the table, Larry, so I would much rather have an office than an apartment.
They're gone all weekend. There's no one there. It's quiet.
Inside the office.
If you went office, if you went apartment project, you might have
24/7.
people around all the time. I'm just thinking it gives you a big chunk of potential office future land use designation.
But if we wanted to have a place for an apartment,
Well, we have the Pleasant Valley and 59. There's a big orange corner there.
Well, okay. So, could you go back to the map, Dave? I'm sorry.
The proposed map?
The current map, yeah. So, this parcel that you're talking about,
All of it, uh-huh.
is that, I'm not familiar with that. Is that really buildable?
I have no idea.
Well,
We talk about this one right here,
Could be for-
with access coming off of Bullards.
It may
Pardon?
be.
it certainly could be for office, I imagine.
just confused.
But is it doubtful that it could be apartment? I mean, it's pretty low in there, from what I recall. Well, the only,
Again, it's just the future land use. It's not the zone.
I understand. And the point I was going to bring up is, I know we have a lot of hopes for Pleasant Valley on 59, but my concern, one of my concerns is that for high density, will those be affordable apartments or single, beginner?
I don't know if we know that, but we do know the company that has this arrangement with the township right now has an extremely large investment in, I'm going to use the word affordable, but it's not necessarily entry.
Yeah,
It's just not high-end housing.
It's not high-end housing. I think you're looking at the
middle.
the 180 to 2 1/4.
But are you talking, I'm sorry, are you talking rental, were you talking rental, though?
Well, what we're talking about is, he says he doesn't know whether the apartments are going to be affordable. All we really know is who Mayberry Homes is and
Correct.
what they build.
Right. We have not gotten far enough with the Mayberry Home team to know what they're envisioning for apartments on the north side of M50.
But I guess what I'm saying is, if they build residential homes that are in the 180 to 250 range, I don't think it's likely we're going to see executive-style, townhomes and apartments paired with it, because that's probably not in their mix. But I agree, we don't know.
Well, there's property to the east of Fenton Road that's multifamily also, right?
Yeah, all of that. Where's Fenton Road? Right there. All that orange.
Well, that's true, okay.
And there's still all of it up at 23 and Clyde.
So, if I could just...
Bring us back.
Sure. The question on the table is changing this kind of sideways L right here.
All to office.
Yeah, I think.
All to office,
I think that would make sense. I don't think it should be orange.
Chopped up right now, and I don't think...
I don't think it should be orange. I just don't think it should be orange.
Here's the 2011 map, which is the map that is in effect right now. And this does show the office on those 3 residential lots. It does show the multifamily here. It does show the multifamily on the west side of Bullard. So the change from the existing map would be this multifamily piece would go to office, and these 3 multifamily go to office, plus this the old farmhouse.
So Dave, is this the correct map?
This is the 2011 map. This is the map that
Okay, this is the one you...
that was adopted by the Township Board in 2011.
And I just don't know where that
Both
orange
I have
piece,
show that yellow.
I can't picture where that other orange piece that's horizontal.
Why it's even there,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So the map that was left here for me, which I think is your latest corrected, shows it is yellow. Those 3 homes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what his correction is.
Correction, thank you.
We've got the 2011 adopted map. We've got the 2015 proposed map. And the 2015 proposed map, the one I want us to focus on, is the one that has the March 23rd date on it. The one that says March 19th, let's just throw that away. So what's on the screen right now is 2011.
Yeah.
And now, proposed 2015. But what's being suggested at the table is saying office, office, office.
Yeah.
And if I missed a consensus, then
You missed it yet, because I don't think there is one yet. Is there? I'm there.
I'm there.
I don't know where you 3 are.
So what does that mean for the homes and the families that live on those lots?
Doesn't mean anything.
Nothing.
Nothing. Doesn't hurt them.
it would mean a whole lot more if we were changing the zoning map.
What it does mean right now is, somebody wanted to come and build an apartment there, they could propose to build it there, because the map says they could. They could change the zoning to that.
Yeah, I was going to say, as I think it was mentioned earlier, only 2 of those parcels are built, and I think the 3rd one's still vacant.
Yes.
Most likely, nothing will happen to those 3 yellow lots. They're on the lake, they're
Yeah.
built. Nothing's going to happen to those. On the others, I don't know who lives on that, but the old Armstrong, I think it's the old Armstrong barn next to the township property, the yellow one. I'm real surprised that's still considered yellow.
Not the bed and breakfast place?
No,
What is that?
this is to the west, that's the old barn, it's got like a, almost like a corral in the front.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
That's a neat little house, a neat house, you know? It is really cool.
Just because we're on the topic, so does the park run right to here, or does the park run all the way to the lake?
Park goes all the way to Bullard Lake. It's worth noting that this area where I'm moving my mouse right now was acquired by the Livingston Land Conservancy. Got it from, I can't remember the name now, but...
Well, I can't see the name, the guy that owned the dam.
Yep, they worked out a deal with the Bullard Lake Homeowners Association. They got to, for better or for worse, they got to take over the dam, which is on the southwest side of the lake. So that's why this is that little sliver of a medium suburban, and then everything around it was deeded to the Land Conservancy. So that's why that went to public, quasi-public.
Okay, so the park owns up to this point,
Yes.
is that correct, to the lake? Okay,
That's
great.
the Hartland Township, that's Heritage Park. And right next door is the, I always mix up the Lutheran churches, I think that's All Saints Lutheran next door.
Right, this guy here.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm okay with taking it to office. I think it's logical, it makes sense.
I'm okay.
Does that mean we're putting Mike Mitchell on the spot?
Yeah.
If it makes any difference, this would still be a draft map that we'd be presenting to, at the public workshop on April 16th. Because the whole reason we'd have a public workshop is to take that input and maybe have your minds change on some things.
Mike, are you, what's your, I'm more concerned with the orange. I'm not so concerned with the yellow. Man, I'd be glad to keep the yellow, and those 3 lots. But I really think we should move towards office on those 2 orange spots. And possibly the yellow one to the east of that.
Well, and the reason I don't like the orange, one, and it doesn't hurt the homeowners being
Right.
blue, and the fact that it is blue, if somebody wanted to come in and buy those homes as a big package, the property's probably worth more, not my concern, to those 3 homeowners.
Right.
If it's all blue. Because it can all be changed to blue. It can be proposed to be changed to blue, and the future land use map supports it. Likelihood of happening? I don't know, but the orange looks funny.
I know you all understand this. You're not changing the zoning, so it's not as if you're taking those folks' homes that they just invested a lot of money in and turning them into non-conforming uses. You would be doing that if you were rezoning those properties. But
The current land use map already has it as office.
that's true.
So you're not changing anything for those people.
We're now looking at the current
Yeah.
2011.
We're just saying change the 2
Oranges.
oranges to blue, because they're
Well,
already
and a little
blue.
yellow piece.
And the yellow.
Little yellow piece.
And the yellow to blue, which makes green.
Well, personally, I have no problem with that parcel going office.
Okay.
That doesn't bother me. I'm just,
Is your concern the 3 houses behind the Trillium office and/or the multifamily to the
I'm
east?
just debating this strip going office.
Well, right now, it could go apartments.
Yes, and I'm all in favor of that.
I don't think
It's perfect access immediately off of that 59.
It's not. How
You
big
don't-
is that?
You don't change
Now, that looks like about,
density on any of these other road systems.
Isn't this one 68, the stuff we use?
Oh, here's,
Oh, you'll be able to tell us exact.
well, it's not going to be exact,
gonna
but
guess.
close enough, so.
It's civil engineering here.
20 acres. When you take this flag and those 2 out front, plus or minus 20 acres. Which,
Okay.
that would be, up to 160 apartments.
I had the same thought. I had the same thought about that, so apartment.
And I'm not trying to put anyone on the spot. I would like to, if this is the map we're going to present at a public workshop, I just want to be able to point to all of you and say, this is the map that we're...
And the other way, one other thing maybe to look at is,
Times the size of that other one.
do we want
Yeah.
20 acres of apartments right next to the park for those people that live there to...
Remember, the special planning area is going to have apartments, because it's
Yeah.
in there.
And there's a couple
This is
other
gonna
areas
have
already.
apartments in it. We didn't wipe apartments out.
Right.
We don't even know how
Still-
much of it's
They're
going to
still east of Fenton Road.
Yep.
And there is 40 acres within the special planning area that was not the township sewer property. So when we're talking about Mayberry Homes, we're talking about this 80 down here, this 30-something up here. There's another 40 here that's also part of the special planning area that's still under private ownership. And in my tenure, I've not seen any concepts or... So my point being that this is very much in play, too.
Yeah, and I'm expecting that. But in my opinion, I think those are going to be higher priced apartments. I think they're going to start at the $800 range for a single bedroom.
Yeah.
And you can't, for a young single person, fresh out of college or maybe out of high school type of thing.
Yeah, I don't know if
You can't find anything unless you find a home in the area that has an apartment above it, type of thing.
Yeah, they're not going to...
We don't offer.
You're not going to build...
But that's targeted. They're not going to locate here. This is a bedroom community. Young people like that, and we're going to get an apartment, they want to be closer to the urban areas. I don't know.
But the other thing is, I don't think you're going to get anybody to, at the cost of building and land, I don't think you're going to get anybody to build an apartment that's going to be less than $800 a month at today's standard.
Yeah, I don't know. I can go either way.
The housing study that we had done did confirm that there is a strong demand in Hartland Township for rental apartments.
Right.
And I don't think that's a surprise. Oak Brook is always full. So there is a market here. Now, can you turn a profit given the land costs and everything else? I might not be smart enough to know that. But if Commissioner Mitchell's concern is that we're taking away too much of the land that potentially could be developed as multifamily, I'm not going to disagree with that concern. I would point out that there is, a large tract here that's specifically designated multifamily that's for the most part undeveloped, and this area, north and east of the ice arena.
And don't forget up by Clyde.
Up by Clyde, and then the special planning area could potentially all be apartments, but that's still a big unknown. So that's just something to consider. If the concern is that we're taking away too much of the multifamily designation that we know there is a demand for. And if it's a democracy, if 4 out of 5 is a consensus.
You know what? I would change it to blue, and not because I side with it, and when we have our meeting and we have the full commission, let them all decide.
That's fine.
That's what I would do. It can always go back to orange, because it's going to be discussed. We're going to go through all these changes again in 3 weeks. Joy. Okay, and you better not be absent.
I said...
Okay, let's change it to blue.
All right, you have a consensus for blue, at least for the next 3 weeks.
Well, at least for the week.
For the week.
I'll leave it blue through Friday.
All right. Okay, and I never say go
But
blue.
let's go back to that same location, Dave.
Yes.
What about,
I'm sorry. We're the same location.
yeah.
On the proposed map.
yes.
So you're
What about this little triangle? Which is labeled office.
Yes.
We have Hungry Howie's, we got a convenience store, and we have a real estate office.
I want to confirm that I'm on the right.
It's going to stay off.
And in the big,
actually-
in the bigger
You are
parcel-
correct, so that's the Nader Plaza, Hilltop Plaza.
Right. And then just to the west of that, you have inland real estate,
Right, and a
Yes.
vacant lot. Right here is a vacant lot.
and then a vacant lot.
Right, vacant, England, vacant. Pretty sure that this is vacant, right?
So is it plausible that that continues to show office, or do we show that little boundary area commercial?
Well, England is office.
It's zoned neighborhood
Service.
commercial, I think.
Is it?
I believe so.
I'll confirm, but I think you're right.
And what that thought process was, at least back when my first stint on the planning commission, was that you would have some of these neighborhood commercials, convenience areas for people to not have to go all the way up to Meyer
Right.
or Kroger at the time. Kroger was there, Meyer wasn't there. The idea would be, and actually talked a lot about having those, not just here, but in other parts of the township, like Fenton Road or something like that, something that people can just kind of run up and get a gallon of milk, Copeland, something like that, you know what I mean? But what's your thoughts? I'm curious.
My thoughts are, that's exactly my thought, is that's the way it should be zoned.
That's the 2011 there, right?
This is the zoning map now.
So that is what it really is.
It is Zone Neighborhood Service Commercial,
Okay.
NSC.
But if somebody wanted to buy it and tear it down and propose to put an office there, we would let them do it because the blue is consistent with the area.
Yes.
But if somebody wanted to come in and tear it down and still build what's there, like a new little commercial center, they could, because that's what it's zoned.
They wouldn't seek a rezoning.
They did.
For whatever it's worth, it's shown as office on the 2011 map, which we'll continue to call the current map.
Very good.
Leave it as
Yep.
shown.
Fine. No, that's fine.
We have a consensus.
Worth noting that if you zoom right back into where you were, that,
On the, and I apologize if I'm bouncing around a
okay,
lot.
no, it's okay, we're doing the same with you, we're just checking your computer skill.
Yeah.
If you'll just, go into this area,
Zoom in some more.
yeah.
Oh, that little yellow piece?
The little,
Oh, I was just being picky that the road doesn't go across here anymore, so that little line's got to be removed.
Okay, I'll give you the phone number to Livingston County GIS.
It's a little yellow
I'm just telling you, they closed that up for probably a pretty bad reason, but, okay. Well, that was it.
It was a good reason.
It was a good
A lot
reason
of
that they
accident-
did.
It was like one of the highest points of accidents right there.
yeah, we had a meeting with MDOT on that one. Is
that right?
They did that. MDOT did that. We didn't have
MDOT
anything to
did
do with it.
Yeah, I don't,
You don't want me to start editing the road data, I promise.
never did understand
We
that.
have to fix the Clark turnaround from west to east.
Yeah. All righty, what's next?
Okay, I hope, I'm sorry.
Thought
I heard somebody.
Are we there?
Start a sentence. Close, and I hope I didn't save the toughest for last, and that is the former Detroit Presbytery property. We talked about this one before. I'm going by memory now. I think we agreed that public quasi-public is no longer the appropriate designation for that property. I think we can agree that it's going to be developed privately and it's going to be developed for profit. So what I'm showing is, given that this is still one that's in the works, for the sake of consistency, showing it at the same land use designation as the properties, the developments on either side of it.
Totally.
Now, keeping in mind that this is coming through as a planned development, the Chestnut development. But I think this would at least be a good baseline and not inconsistent with what we've been talking about with that developer all along, of having at least on the future land use map, the consistency between the San Marino development, the Autumn Woods development, and this property.
Totally agree.
I agree.
Right.
We don't need to have any discussion on that.
Okay. End of
I
discussion.
thought we pretty much talked about
That
that.
wasn't the easy, that wasn't the hard one.
I told you I was going by
The
memory.
hard one was the orange next to the...
I don't know why you didn't start with that one.
And I think those were all the areas that I wanted to bring to your attention tonight. And I'm not looking, this isn't something where we're looking for a motion necessarily, or not necessarily, we're not looking for a motion. Just one last consensus that this, once I make these changes that we talked about, this is the map that we bring to our public workshop on April 16th.
So moved.
So moved, yeah.
Okay. Are we up to item 8B? 8B, Dave, you are requesting we set a date for this public work session, that date being April 16th. Is that correct?
That is correct, and there's a recommended motion language.
All righty. If you could find that in your packet, let's do that.
Move to hold a public workshop to receive comment on the proposed updates to the Hartland Township Comprehensive Plan during the regular Planning Commission meeting of April 16, 2015.
Support.
Motion from Commissioner Mitchell, second from Commissioner Voigt. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay, motion carries. Dave, are we going to keep that agenda then, like, just for that? Or are we going to end up...
No.
Okay.
And that, I was going to bring that up in my planner's report.
All right, well then, we're almost there.
Okay.
Let's get to no call to the public. Planner's report.
Safer roads, we look at that later.
Well,
Can we?
that was provided as a resource.
Well, I have something I want to... Well, that's not on the agenda, so committee reports, you can ask your question. Planner's report.
So, speaking of the April 16th meeting, we did have a concept plan submitted for some single-family residential developments on the north side of the Venture Church property. It is something that was not unexpected. We've had at least one concept meeting with the proposed buyer of the church's property. And so this is an old aerial photo, but if you're looking at this property right here, keep in mind there's now a big church right about there, and then a bunch of developable land behind it. When the River Church, what was called the River Church at the time, now Venture Church, came through this planning commission as a planned development, it was fully anticipated that there was going to be some sort of residential behind it. Well, now we have a concept plan of what that residential is going to look like. What they're proposing is 64 single-family units on what we estimate to be to the developable 42 acres behind the church. The development is very similar to a development that was previously proposed on this property. That was Ivanhoe Huntley was doing a development called Crestwood. That was 80 single-family units. What they've essentially done is taken that Ivanhoe Huntley plan, lopped off the front 25 acres, said that's a church now, and then we're just going to build what Ivanhoe Huntley was going to build behind it. So what that comes out to is 64 units on 42 acres. So what this would be an amendment to a planned development, and they would be bringing in this residential developer as a party to that existing planned development with Venture Church. And that residential developer is Capital Construction Group, who's doing a lot of building in the Hillsborough residential development on the south side of Commerce Road in Brighton Township. Some pretty nice houses going in there. They a pretty nice product, and they apparently are doing really well there, and those houses are doing really well for them in large part because they're in the Hartland School District, and so that builder says, I want to do more of this in the Hartland School District. And so that's why he's looking to do that behind the Venture Church. Long story short, you'll be looking at a conceptual plan for a plan development amendment at potentially the April 16th meeting.
Which is generally a briefer type meeting than a preliminary.
It's an opportunity for the developer to hear the Planning Commission's early thoughts and also the board's early thoughts before he invests a whole lot of money in a piece of property and invests a whole lot of money in engineering and design and all those things. Okay. So
how close is the product to Ivanhoe Huntley's? Because I remember Ivanhoe Huntley's, and it was a nice product.
I think this is a half step above.
Really?
I think this is a pretty nice product.
Oh, okay.
One of the things they submitted is some potential housing designs, elevations, floor plans, and those will be in the packet, or if you want to see them ahead of time, I can give them to you.
Nah, you just...
Side entry garages, pretty nice houses.
Yeah, they are.
Very nice.
Just before this meeting, we had a meeting with the site plan committee of Mr. Fox and Mr. Voigt with Team Speedway. So they are looking to move ahead on rebuilding their gas station on the southeast corner of M59 and Old US 23. We had a good meeting. We had a lot of discussion about a lot of topics, not the least of which was the traffic impacts and the building design. And their hope is to submit so that they could be on a May Planning Commission meeting that would require a public hearing because it's a special land use in the general commercial zoning district. So that project looks to be moving ahead. The Woods Edge site condominium plan, the 21 units on Maxfield Road that we talked about a little bit tonight, that will be before the Township Board on April 7th, where the board would have the opportunity to approve the preliminary site condominium plan. And the final site condominium plan will come back to this Planning Commission and then ultimately back to the Township Board. Our new zoning inspector started today, so the Township Board approved that position at a special meeting this past Tuesday, and then we got him started today. His name is Bill Lenahan. Bill is going to be a great asset. He's comes from a lifetime of law enforcement. He was a member of the inaugural the inaugural police department for Canton Township. When they first started to have a police department, he was one of the first officers, and he was also the chief of police on Mackinac Island for a number of years, which I think, if nothing else, will give us some interesting stories over coffee. But yeah, after his retirement from a career in law enforcement, he's gotten into code enforcement with the city of Brighton and now with Northfield Township. Northfield Township, demographically and size-wise, is very comparable to Hartland, so he's going to hit the ground running, and he comes highly recommended from a whole host of people. So he's going to be a great asset. And finally, the updated zoning ordinance from Clear Zoning is going to be available to you very shortly here. You're going to be getting a new, fresh ordinance. They've incorporated all of the sign amendments that the board adopted a couple meetings ago, and so at our next Planning Commission meeting, you'll be getting your new zoning ordinance.
Did we actually bring that out for everyone then?
Pardon?
Are we printing that out?
Well, part of our contract with them is that we get so many copies, paper copies every time,
Okay.
so we're going to take advantage of that.
Okay,
And
that's fine.
You'll
There's
see
a lot of paper, but that's
we debated whether or not to just go with the insert pages, but there was enough changes that it just would have been more trouble than it's worth, I think, to try to do a whole host of insert pages.
Okay.
If you don't want a paper copy, if you'd rather have a CD, let me know. I mean, I don't want to give it to you just to have it, stuck in a closet somewhere. So if you prefer to stick with digital, let me know, and we'll use the paper copies elsewhere.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it, thank you.
All righty. Anybody else? Anybody want to talk about roads and potholes?
Yeah, the potholes were fixed out here. Imagine that, eh? Last year.
I couldn't believe it the other day. It looked like a bomb blew off.
Small car could have been lost in it. So, yeah, I'm happy to see the Hartland Township Safer Roads update that we received here.
So what was in your packet was the prior update. What you have in front of you is the latest update. That's what I passed out. So that's the one that shows how a pothole forms 101.
Oh, interesting.
We're hoping to get all the road improvements done in the next 2 years. And one of the recent changes was Reed Road. We were hoping to get done this summer. It's going to get pushed off to next summer because there's a couple things going on Reed Road. One is the Lake Tyrone sewer. The other is Consumers is going to run a new gas line through there, and it didn't make any sense for us to fix that road only to have Consumers and the Drain Commission tear it back up. So we're going to let the Consumers and Drain Commission tear it up out there this summer, and then we'll put in a nice road next summer.
Can I comment on the road?
I'm sorry?
I would like to comment
Okay.
on the road. Okay, so Pleasant Valley Road, so on page 15 in the packet. Yeah, right there. You were there. So, yeah, so if you'll pan, so at the south end there is Commerce Road.
Yes.
So this is Commerce here, right? Pleasant
Yes.
Valley North to Lone
Yes.
Tree.
Yes.
Well, there's a segment that, in my opinion, is left off the map, and if you come from north to south, this is a paved segment to about here. So there's a 0.2 of a mile segment here that's gravel. It's actually the worst portion of all this, and this was brought up once before, and I thought I asked for clarification when they said that the improvements would be from Commerce to Lone Tree. Well, 0.2 of a mile, which is about 1,000 feet, it's still gravel, and this is the worst segment. It's very wet in here.
I will confirm, I think that what should be shown there is Commerce all the way to the paved portion of Pleasant Valley.
I would agree with
Pleasant
him.
Valley from Commerce up to the paved portion.
Up
Yes.
to the paved portion.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
We have no, I mean, it wouldn't make any sense for us to
Yeah.
stop at Lone Tree and not do, and so I think that's just a mapping glitch, and I'm, again, going on memory, I feel like we had this conversation, and frankly, maybe I gave you the not most up-to-date map now that I'm looking at it, because I know we had a conversation about that, and I thought that got corrected on the map. I will confirm.
You pass that along then?
Pass.
That's something you pass along?
That question of whether we're actually going to do all of
Yeah.
Pleasant Valley as opposed to stopping short, yes, I will
And get
pass
that
that on.
map updated so it's not accidentally. Because we did have the conversation, again, I think, once before, and I'm surprised that it's not, so thank you for that.
I think it should be paved, but I don't think residents should have to pave it. I think it's long overdue that the road commission recognize that that's a major, it's the only area you can go north, all the way from that where it is pavement, almost to Flint, and you're on pavement, I think you're on pavement all the way to Flint. You can go south at Commerce Road and get to Ann Arbor, and you don't hit any, and it's pavement all the way through. This is just simply ridiculous. And the only reason why they didn't do it, from talking to Mike Crane, Road Commission, he told me that, well, for a long time, nobody wanted those trees cut down. Because, they could have had it paved when the gravel pit went in. Could have been, but everybody loved that view shed there. Well, that went away when ITC came in and clear cut all the trees all along there. So there's no reason now, other than money, not to pave that. He did say the curve, they would have to straighten out
Yes.
the curve. That's the biggest problem that they would have, is the curve. That and drainage, they're going to have to pay for property for drainage. But
Didn't the gravel pit actually pay for the road to be paved down to the gravel pit and then to the south end of Bigler's property? So I was around then, but I wasn't here for sure, and I didn't know that it was close to being paved all the way through.
I only heard that from Mr. Giggler. He pulled me aside one day and told me that. So
And I know that when there was a development proposed,
that is what it is.
on the sewer properties, as we call them, one of the conditions that was being worked on as a recognizable benefit was doing some additional paving on Pleasant Valley, and obviously that development didn't happen.
Paving, and I was on that, yeah, and contributions to getting it paved.
And for whatever it's worth, so when we were going through the process of developing the Safer Roads Plan that we, ultimately had to present to the voters and get their approval, one of the options on the table was doing the paving of Pleasant Valley, and my recollection is that the cost was such that it was tough to, we would have had to put a pretty huge millage out in front of the voters to be able to come up with the money to do that project. Because of the curve and having to straighten it out and the ditching and everything that goes along with it, it just turned into a huge project.
Well, and the other part of that, though, was I was on the pathways through, and I live off Pleasant Valley, and I made a point to say that should only be gravel and not paved by the township. Because I truly think that the number of residents who use that Pleasant Valley come from outside the township, people in the township.
We talked about putting a toll booth there and checking IDs, and if you lived in Hartland, or if you didn't live in Heartland, you had to pay because you were using it as a cut-through to get to Holly and Fenton and wherever else.
Well, a lot of people use it as a cutway to get to the expressway.
Oh, sure. It goes all the way down to 96.
And you can always tell when, because I live in the area also, you can always tell when there's an accident on US 23, because that road is used by all kinds of traffic, including semis that really aren't supposed to pass through that.
I'll bet.
Okay. Anything else? Second, anyone? To adjourn. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Good night, and